Welcome to the MS&Me Radio Network, a division of the Multiple Sclerosis Global Support Network. The following program broadcast is an original creation by the broadcast entity. Discussion within the following broadcast should be used for informational purposes only and is not a substitute for professional medical advice or consultation. Before considering application of any broadcast content in the following program, please consult your healthcare provider. If you feel you are having a medical emergency, please contact your local health services for immediate assistance. MS&Me Media and the Multiple Sclerosis Global Support Network do not guarantee or warrant the accuracy of information in the broadcast to follow. The Multiple Sclerosis Global Support Network provisions broadcast services to program hosts. Information discussed in the broadcast does not necessarily reflect the views, opinions, or goals of the network and are solely those of the show broadcast host. Should you wish to host a broadcast, please visit our website at msmemedia.com and submit a request to become a program host. We thank you for listening to the MS&Me Radio Network. Enjoy the show.
Hi everyone, it's Rebecca Naylor, health coach with Chronically Well Club. I am celebrating 20 years living with multiple sclerosis in remission since I was originally diagnosed with relapsing remitting MS back in 1997 when I was 17 years old. This is my 20-year anniversary. Since that diagnosis, it's a really exciting year for me that has seen a lot of exciting transitions, one of which was creating Chronically Well Club. So I created this group, this organization, this service as a way of educating others to share the message that we all have an innate power to heal in our bodies. Our bodies know how to heal themselves, and it really is within our power to purposefully and consciously recreate our own lives. So over the past 20 years, I've been through quite a journey keeping myself in remission. A lot of hard work, a lot of fun too, but I have learned so much, and I've been sharing this informally over the years, and now since creating Chronically Well Club, I now have formalized everything that I've learned a little bit more into what I call the 8 keys of healing. And this is something that I work with my clients on. So I now work as a health coach specializing in multiple sclerosis and other autoimmune illnesses. And I help people to understand all of the different areas of lifestyle and functional medicine that are completely within your control to manage your MS, give yourself the best optimal health possible by really focusing on all the things that are within your control. So those 8 keys, I review them just at the beginning of each episode. The 8 keys are diet, toxins, emotions, environment, movement, cognition, gut, and mindset. So in each of my episodes, I talk about something to do with one of these 8 keys. Sometimes I focus on one particular key, such as toxins, and other times I comment on multiple ones because they're really, really intertwined. It's very difficult to talk about diet without talking about emotions because let's be real, there's an emotional component to eating. That is something that is there all the time. Eating is something we have to do at least 3 times a day in general, and our decisions about what we eat or what we don't eat, especially today with the overwhelming amount of information on the media and being offered as advice, whether we ask for it or not, it can be overwhelming. So there's an example where diet and emotions are very, very closely linked. So for this episode today, I am actually going to attempt to talk about all 8. So the title of this episode is I Am My Own Client, because that's exactly what I have done this week. I have tried to step back from myself a little bit and view my own experience as a person with MS the way I view my clients, and to look at the things that are happening in my life and think, okay, if I had a client that was coming to me and experiencing the things that I'm experiencing now, how would I advise them? What would I coach them through? What suggestions would I give? What questions would I ask? What guidance would I share? What experience would I want them to understand? How would I want them to take action and control of their own lives? So these are the questions I've been asking myself this week. It is a pretty big time of transition in my life right now. If you've been following Chronically Well Club, you know that I made a major decision back on September 5th to leave my career as a public high school teacher and move as close to full time as I can into really devoting myself to being a health coach, because it's a career that allows me the flexibility to respect the challenges I have as a person who's still living with multiple sclerosis, and also allows me to use my gifts as an educator and my experience keeping a chronic illness like MS in remission. I'm able to share that with the world and really make a positive impact and be of service to my community. So that's awesome, and I'm really happy with my decision. But of course, it comes with a lot of challenges. My world has really been turned upside down. And so over the past week, I've noticed some of those day-to-day fluctuating symptoms, things like, neuropathy, fatigue, brain fog, weakness, things like that. I've noticed them coming a little more frequently or a little bit more intensely than they usually would. And I've really had to step back and say, okay, again, I am my own client. What would I do if I was a client coming to me? So I stepped back and I looked at all 8 of my 8 keys of healing, and really took some steps over the past week to start to really focus on self-care and putting myself and my health first. Because though I am in remission, people with MS, even when they're in remission, can deal with some day-to-day symptoms like fatigue or brain fog or some neuropathy, or bladder urgency and frequency is very common. Balance issues. These are things that just kind of come and go and fluctuate with stress, and they in no way indicate any kind of disease progression. So that's what I am dealing with. My MRI is clear, no lesions, other than maybe 2 little residual ones, and all the rest of them have healed, but still dealing with these symptoms. So let's look at the 8 keys and some of the things that I've done over the past week to really take control and let's use the word responsibility, take responsibility for the things that are within my control to try and get myself back to that optimal state of health that I want to be in order to set a good example for my clients. Because really, I have to, as they say, practice what I preach, right? So, key number 1, diet. So I examined what's been going on with my diet over the past few weeks, the month of September really, as I've been going through this very stressful time with this big career transition. And a few different things I noticed had been happening. When I looked at my supplements, so I don't take that many supplements. I try and focus on key ones, like a really high quality whole foods, raw food based multivitamin, things like high doses of omegas, fats that we definitely need for brain development, especially omega-3. We tend to be oversaturated with omega-6. And then a few other things that focus on B vitamins for mood and cellular function. But I try and limit the number of capsules, I suppose you would say, that I take on a daily basis, because I feel like the lower the number of capsules I have to take, the more likely it is that I'm actually going to take it. And really, I do try and get most of my nutrition, excuse me, from my food. But I have noticed that in the past month, as I've gotten busy, I looked back on my little organizer where I keep all of my daily planned supplements, and I'm noticing a lot of ones that are still full. So days basically that I've missed taking my supplements because I've been busy. I haven't been on a structured schedule like I have been for, my entire life since junior kindergarten as a student and a high school teacher. So I've a little bit fallen off the wagon with taking my supplements. So that was one thing I implemented this week, was really filling my container with all my weekdays and making sure that I get back into a morning routine where I make sure that I take those supplements first thing in the morning. I also started looking at the things I have been eating and that I haven't been eating, because sometimes it's not just about avoiding the bad stuff. It's really about making sure you're getting enough of the good stuff. And I had noticed that because I've been busy and I've been tired, I've been eating a lot of the foods that are really easy to go-to, things like sweet potatoes that are really easy when you're on an autoimmune protocol diet to just slice up, throw in the toaster, toast, and then, have as a snack. And that's great, but if all you're having is sweet potato, it is a quite sweet vegetable. And I have been having lots of other things, but I had been going to that a lot more than I had been going to my greens, for example. And greens are something that people with MS especially, but everyone really, needs a lot more of. We need raw greens for the high nutritional content, and we also need cooked greens because the cooked food actually allows us to have bulk in our stool, allows us to process food and get it moving through our digestive system. Think of it this way: raw foods are more difficult to digest, so they slow down digestion. Cooked foods, easy to digest because they're partially digested already by the cooking process, and so they speed up digestion. I had been noticing some constipation because I hadn't been getting enough of those cooked vegetables in my diet. So I really started to add back in cooked greens. I'd also noticed that I hadn't been having my high fat. So high fat is really, really important for multiple sclerosis on the AIP diet because our brains are made of fat, like 70% fat or something like that. And we tend to respond well to a very high fat diet. Now, good fats like walnuts, avocados and avocado oil, coconut and coconut oil. And yes, the fats from a small amount of animal proteins, but it's provided that they are organic, that they are grass-fed or wild. Those are the good meats that we should be eating. And if you're going to get conventionally raised meat, that's okay, but don't get the high fat variety, get the lean variety, and then add your own healthy fats to it. So I've been upping my greens and fat intake, and I've been lowering my fruit intake because I've been eating a lot more fruit than usual, mainly because it's easy just to grab an apple or a pear when you need a snack and don't have the energy to cook. And what I've noticed over the past week or so especially is I'm starting to get the white tongue. So a white tongue, if you've ever had that before, it's like a coating on your tongue. It feels very thick and it has this light white color. And that usually happens based on what you're eating, or sometimes if you picked up some kind of virus as well, but it indicates your body being in some kind of imbalance. And a common culprit is the Candida albicans overgrowth, which can happen systemically throughout your body and often shows up on the tongue as a white lining on the tongue with clear patches. And when I woke up this morning, I noticed I definitely had that. So I'm really cutting down on the fruit because Candida, of course, feeds on sugar. So let's move on now to key number 2, toxins. So as I said, I noticed what was going on with my tongue. That's a really strong indicator that there's something I need to do to rebalance my system. I choose for almost everything that I can not to use pharmaceuticals. I use essential oils for all of my medicinal purposes. So I went to my essential oils and looked up things for what's called oral thrush. Oral thrush is a candida overgrowth on the tongue. I'd also been noticed some really increased bladder urgency. So I wondered if that might be the beginning of a urinary tract infection. So the oils for the tongue, I was using my lavender, very anti-inflammatory. I was using peppermint. Both of these have antifungal properties. And also some lemon. I was putting them in a shot of water, swishing them around my whole mouth, on the tongue, under the tongue, gargling, really helping to get that out of the system. I was using my lemongrass oil, which is really good for urinary tract infections, and I was using that topically, spread on the skin over top of my bladder. And I also have a toothpaste and mouthwash rinse that are a special blend of essential oils that are good for supporting the immune system and keeping bad stuff at bay, I suppose. So I was using that as well. So those are things I'm doing to try and detoxify my body this week. The next key is emotions. So yeah, it's been an emotional week. So I'm in the middle of an application for long-term disability because I'm unable to continue working as a classroom teacher due to the highly stressful demands of the job right now. And my primary reason for not being able to teach is emotional. It is that yes, I have MS, but it's the really difficult high level of stress and my emotional control of that, which is triggering my MS symptoms. So it's been a bit of an emotional roller coaster, managing the fact that I'm having to put in this LTD, long-term disability claim, even though I'm physically in remission. So there are a few different things that I've been doing to really focus on healing my emotions this week. The first thing I did is, for those of you who have been following me, you know that about a month ago I did an episode that was a review of a book by Gabor Mate called The High Cost of Stress When the Body Says No. And I only got through half the book. I did part one, and I keep saying that I'm going to do part two. Now, I have read the whole book many times. I've got all my sticky notes there, but for some reason, I have felt this emotional aversion to doing part two right now. I think it's because I'm in such an emotional state that maybe really diving so much into the topic of emotions might be a bit overwhelming for me right now. So thank you for your patience. I am at some point going to get to that part two, but the fact that I felt I had to do it this week, and it was something that was weighing on me and causing me stress. So one of the things I did was release attachment to whether or not I ever get to part two of that book. I would like to, but I'm not promising, because if it's causing me stress, then I'm not living by example, right? One of the other things I did this week was I was working with my neuropsychiatrist, and he was actually challenging me to look at worst case scenarios. What happens if my LTD claim gets denied? I'm now at a point right now where my income has been cut off. I've run out of sick days and I don't have a decision. So my savings are running out. It's a little stressful. And he really challenged me to think through what would I do? What am I willing to do? What is possible? What are the accommodations I need? What are the alternatives? What are my plan Bs? And this was challenging for me because it goes really contrary to my spiritual belief, which is very, very strong. And my spiritual belief is that thoughts become things. I don't mean that you think something like, I want $1 million and it suddenly appears in front of you. I simply mean that the things that we think and believe, the things that we ruminate on and that are the tendency of our thoughts and really run through our mind all the time, they affect our energy. And our energy either draws people to us or repels them away from us. So the thoughts that we're having have a strong effect on our environment, the people in our environment, our communication with the people in our environment. And it's a whole chain reaction where the things we thought affect our beliefs, which affects our behavior, which affects our actions, and that affects how other people react to us. And eventually we can end up making totally different decisions down the line. And in the end, yeah, things can end up becoming self-fulfilling prophecies. They very often do. That's where that expression comes from. So for me to sit there and purposely think of worst case scenarios, that was really difficult for me because I usually try to really focus on affirmations and visualizing what I do want in my life. However, I do think it was a good process for me to challenge myself to face what's become a bit of a fear that I have, a fear of facing negative emotions. I know that this is something that is very strongly associated with the psychological profile that has been noticed for people that have diseases like multiple sclerosis and ALS and other diseases. We do tend to shy away from negative emotions, avoid conflict, people pleasers, right? Always trying to keep the calm, always trying to be the mediator. Yeah. So it probably wasn't such a good thing that I had the opportunity to face that fear of negative emotions, realize that it was okay to spend an hour considering the worst case scenario. And I wasn't hurt in the end, and it hasn't brought it to me. I was still able to bring myself back to affirmations afterwards, but now I'm better prepared for what might happen should any of those scenarios become my reality. Okay, so moving on to the fourth key, that is environment. So what have I done this week to improve my environment in ways that are going to help my health? Well, one of the things I did was look at the internal environment of my home, and I looked at the way my furniture is arranged. I started to think of something that was bothering me about the way furniture was arranged, with my dining room table being where I eat being in a separate place from where my puppy plays, and that being in a separate place from where I do my Chronically Well Club work. And my puppy's only a year old and still requires a lot of supervision. So I found it a bit of a challenge to always be going from room to room with the puppy, eating in one place, working in another place, watching the puppy in another place. And also because I rely so heavily on essential oils for my healthcare, every time I moved rooms, I then had to set up the essential oil diffuser that was in that other room. So that became a bit of a pain in the butt. So I decided I'm just going to organize things a little differently. So I shifted things around in my environment. I moved around my living room furniture, made room for a table in my living room actually, which is where I primarily do a lot of things now. I work at that table, I eat at that table, I can see my puppy in his play area at that table. So that's an example of things you can do in your environment. So what is it about your environment that's not working, and how can you fix it to ease your stress level, which in turn is going to improve your health. One other thing I did for my outside environment is I let my puppy off leash for the first time. So he just turned a year old, and I decided finally it was time. And when we were at the park the other day with a whole bunch of other puppies and he was having so much fun, I looked at him and I felt so bad because he was the only puppy who was still on a leash and everyone else was running circles around him. So I decided he's a big boy now, and for the first time ever, I unclipped that leash in an open park and I let him run like a cheetah. Oh my goodness, can miniature poodles run fast? But he had a great time, and it was so much fun for him and so much fun for me not to literally have this like ball and chain of a puppy pulling at me all the time on our walks. So I feel like that's really opened up a new way of us being together in our outdoor environment. Okay, moving on to key number 5, movement. So how have I been paying attention to my relationship with my body and moving my body for health? I started doing more stretching in the morning. I hesitate to use the word yoga because when you say I do yoga, especially in North America, people see it as like a fitness class. And yoga started as a spiritual practice that involved movement, and it's been North Americanized to become a fitness class with often very little connection to spirituality other than listen to your breath. But I do participate in my own type of yoga in the morning. I've gone to various classes and worked with various teachers, just a little bit here and there over the years, nothing intensive. I learned as much as I needed to learn to get some ideas of ways to move my body and listen to how my body wants to move intuitively. So when I wake up in the morning, I don't put on a fitness DVD. I don't follow any particular warrior pose or pigeon pose or whatever. I don't know the names of the poses, but I know what feels good to my body. I know what feels tight. I know what feels stretched. I know what feels weak, and I know what needs strengthened. And I just take 5 minutes in the morning to listen to that. I'm finding that is a really nice way to start my day, and I literally feel more fluid throughout the day. Also, now that it's fall, the temperature is going down, so it's a lot cooler. I can take longer walks with my puppy. And because it's cooler, I can start wearing socks again. Yay! Now, why am I so excited to wear socks again? Because I have the Vox Life Human Performance Technology socks and insoles, which are amazing. And I really encourage anyone with multiple sclerosis to check these out. I'll give you the website at the end of this episode. So it is basically a neurostimulation tool that is woven into socks and also molded into insoles. And when you wear them, it's a tactile stimulation on the bottom of your foot that triggers your brainstem and puts it into homeostasis. And it improves your balance, your energy, so many different things. I've just discovered these a few months ago. And the challenge was I work at home a lot, not wearing socks and shoes. And when it was hot, I wasn't wearing socks, so I wasn't getting the benefit. Now that the weather's cooler, I'm wearing my box socks indoors all the time, and it's amazing. I'm just finding so much more energy at the end of the day. I have so much better balance, and it's really helping with pain as well. One more thing I'm doing is volunteering at a farm sanctuary tomorrow. So getting community movement, right? Moving in community, which gives me extra endorphins from the awesomeness of serving. Let's move on to cognition. So for cognition, for making sure my brain is stimulated and challenged and that I'm still building those intellectual neural pathways, I've made sure that I made time every day this week for music. Music is so powerful. Listening to music lights up part of your brain. Reading music lights up part of your brain. But playing music lights up the entire brain. It's your emotional center. It's your It's so many things. It challenges so many different skills, right? The movement of the fingers, the reading of the different lines and interpreting a type of language and all of the emotions. It just is so good for brain development. So if you don't know how to play an instrument, that's okay. Just pick one up, tinker around. Just the challenge of trying is really, really going to help your brain. One other thing I've done is I've gotten my eyes tested this week because I was noticing at the end of the day, at the same time I was getting the brain fog, I was also noticing like I was blinking a lot and struggling a little bit with my reading. And I had noticed, I suspected a change in my distance prescription. So I went and got an eye test, and sure enough, I do need a different prescription for distance. And if you suspect you need your eyes checked, do it. You may think, what does this have to do with MS? But anything that is fatiguing your body, if your eyes have to constantly focus, trying to focus, using all the muscles trying to focus, then that's energy that you don't have for the rest of your day. So there's a tip there, get your eyes tested. Key number 7 is gut. So because I'm having what I think is the candida coming back, I'm going to redo one of the functional medicine tests that I did last year, which is called an organic acids test, to try and find out exactly what those bacterial or fungal overgrowths might be systemically, because I can't really get into targeted supplementation or herbal therapies until I know exactly what they are, because it's really not guesswork. Guesswork, I might guess it's candida and start taking something that's supposed to treat candida, but then find out that it's actually citrobacter, right? You don't really know. So I'm going to redo one of those tests. And in the meantime, I'm really making a concentrated effort to make sure I get some fermented foods in my system every day so I get those positive probiotics. And finally, mindset. So with mindset, I'm really focusing on this idea. Where's the gift? That's one of my mantras. So whenever something is a challenge for me, or I'm in a conflict with somebody, or something is not what I want, I automatically ask, where's the gift in this? What is this teaching me? How am I projecting myself onto other people? How can I grow from this experience? And that is really, really helping me to deal with everything that is happening over the past month. So if you've enjoyed, this episode today, and you'd like to learn more about me and what I do, you can visit my website at chronicallywell.club, and feel free to contact me as well. I do reply to everyone who sends a message to me, and I really love engaging in dialogue and hearing your views and answering your questions. So you can contact me at rebecca@chronicallywell.club. On my main website, if you go to contact, you'll find links to my Facebook page where I do a regular video blog, my Instagram feed, my YouTube channel where I post all my videos. And you can also find a link there to the Vox website where you can find more information about the Vox HPT neurostimulating devices for your feet. And you can also find a link to my doTERRA page. doTERRA is the only essential oil company that I endorse because they are so pure and so potent, and the company is so honest and incredible. So I have links to my doTERRA pages there as well. And if you're interested in learning more about any of those two things, or to talk about potentially working with me as a coach, again, contact me at rebecca@chronicallywell.club, and I would love to engage with all of you. So for now, I encourage you to take responsibility for creating an amazing day. And that is exactly what I'm going to do myself. So for now, be well, everyone.